yesterday, and both of them, I tried to open both of them, say the meeting was the 10th instead of the 11th. Now, the one you just sent me now works.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it did, but okay, Commissioner Land, we are live.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining this special Board of Fire Commissioners. We have a special meeting today, May 11th. Maybe we could just, it seems to be our tradition, we could just go around the room introducing ourselves. Mark Land, Commissioner.
Harry Andrews, Commissioner, District 4.
Chris Parks, District Administrator.
Jason Vanderveen.
Joe Quinn, attorney.
Thank you. So it's a pretty brief agenda, but a pretty important one. I'd like to begin the meeting by sharing some statements and remarks from me, and then that's going to lead to the other two items on the agenda. So Harry, you can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
As primarily, of course, a lot of this is for you. I just needed to kind of update you on what I've been working on in the last week or so. And I prepared my remarks. I've got some written notes out. So I apologize if it looks like I'm referring to my notes or maybe even at times reading. But my remarks are pretty important. And with my nerves, I just didn't want to risk forgetting anything. So Harry, I've been serving on the District 4 board now for about 7 weeks. Now I suddenly find myself as the new board chair. This position and perspective has caused me to reflect on where we are as a fire district, where we were going, and where we are now. For my part, I feel I could have done a better job asking more questions. Nevertheless, we find ourselves in a position which jeopardizes the current level of service. Here are some highlights of the current state of affairs as I see them, and I've got about 7 of them I want to go through here and highlight. I think there's 7, yeah. Number 1, terminating the ILA with the District 21 for services that's set to expire the end of this year. We recently approved a 6-year levy lid lift resolution beginning at $1.45 with a 6% optional increase. This is in addition to the EMS levy, which is which is another 20 or 21 cents, bringing us to $1.66 if that was approved. Number 3, allowing the relationship with the District 21 board to suffer and deteriorate. Number 4, much of this drama and this what I call dysfunctional behavior has put the Chief Jason Vanderveen in a place trying to play peacemaker and drawn him unnecessarily away from attending to the operational and administrative functions of the department. 5, all of this has caused the great work that was done to create the Regional Fire Authority with District 21 to come to a screeching halt. Number 6, the chairman of the board for District 4 recently resigned. This was following another District 4 board's member's resignation shortly before him. All of this creates instability, anxiety, and uncertainty. These are all characteristics governing bodies should avoid. And finally, number 7, this has led to District 4 finding itself somewhat isolated from the surrounding fire community. The city of Bellingham does not want to currently partner with us, nor does the South Whatcom Fire Authority currently want to partner with us. The customers we serve and the people's employment we support deserve much better than this. So I want to be very clear. The decisions I make from this day forward will be geared towards correcting everything I just highlighted. So it's within this context, I've had a number of meetings recently with Bruce Ansel, the chairman of the board for District 21, our fire chief, Jason Vanderveen, our attorney, Joe Quinn, and Ken Cunningham, the president of the labor union, and they all have the same message for me: get the RFA back on track. Therefore, and I'm almost done, Harry. Therefore, I believe one of the first steps we need to take to fix the previous levy lid resolution, and I say fix because I think the process we used to determine that rate could have been better. Again, my fault. Fortunately, it's not too late to revisit it. In preparation of this meeting, I've had our attorney draw up a new resolution pertaining to the levy lid lift. It's a 1-year lift at $1.45 with a 1% optional increase. Additionally, I would propose we zero out our EMS levy for future years. This way, and this is, I think, what it kind of culminates to for today. This way, the $1.45 and a 0 EMS levy rate will synchronize our rates with District 21, and it will be the same as when we transition back to the RFA during next year's renewed RFA planning process. I think this levy approach will provide stability and a seamless transition to the RFA and won't cause the rate fluctuations to our customers. It's important we project stability, predictability, and consistency. It's what's expected from governing authorities. So now we're going to get to the numbers. This rate and timetable is more in line with what a financial review determined is more appropriate. It's going to allow us to pay our bills without overburdening our customers. The income versus expense margin is very tight, but public budgets should be tight. So, Harry, those are my prepared remarks. Before we get into, some of the numbers justifying some of the things I just said or purporting to justify some of the things I just said, are you with me so far?
So far, I'm with you, and I, as you know, I'm a very pro RFA guy, and I would love to hear us get back on track with that. And I didn't know anything about doing away with our EMS levy until the the head of the union called me last night and told me, and I thought that's a funny way to get that information.
There has been, well, of course, I feel like we're somewhat limited to the kind of information that you and I can share. That's why I felt the need for this meeting was so important, because so much has happened. I needed to inform you so we could discuss this and have a candid conversation in public. Sorry that you had to hear it that way. Honestly, that idea was introduced to me just within the last few days. But as I've studied the numbers and it was presented to me, how we can still pay our bills, provide the same level of service, and synchronize what we want to do levy-wise with our surrounding fire communities, it makes sense. And at least it makes sense to me. And, we would have been at what, $1.66, which is, price gouging that our customers, that just would not have been realistic. So yeah, it's a big move. I'll acknowledge, Harry, it's a big move. But I think when we go through the numbers, hopefully you'll see it the way I see it. If not, now's the time to kick it around.
No, I'm all on board.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to assume anything, and everybody gets to make their own decisions based on the information that's presented. So, all right. Well, then let's just get into it. I guess before we actually make a move or discuss the new levy lid resolution, which is in your packet, I guess I wanted to try the best I can to highlight some of the numbers, why I think this is a good idea. I'll be the first to admit to you, Harry, and everybody else that's listening, numbers and spreadsheets have never been my specialty. So, but I'm going to try. And then Jason, not to put you on the spot, but once I'm done, mucking this up and confusing Harry, then I'll probably ask you to, make maybe some more sense of it, or present the numbers, how we got the numbers, and maybe illustrate it that way. So you've got, 2 minutes to prepare for that.
Got it.
All right. So Harry, if we go back to one of the pages that Bill,
Pruitt.
what's his name? The RFA
Cushman.
Bill guy?
Bill Cushman.
Bill Cushman. If we go back to one of his pages, he did a District 4 tax revenue with levy lid in 2022 projection. So when we go down to the 145 rate column in 2022, only looking at the levy rate and not considering, the EMS funds, because again, I would propose we not include those moving forward. It shows that we would bring in a little more than 2.8 million, 2,871,000 and some other dollars. When I then, and I asked for these figures, when we then compare that to our portion of, paying for our services that we had been contracting with District 21 with, that's like 2.4, leaving us about $451,000 in the black. And when I say the cost of services, that includes staffing costs, which of course that's labor, which is the lion's share of it, overtime, administration, and our share of the operational costs. So again, that leaves us just under $500,000 in the black. Now, in conversations I've had with the fire chief and Bruce, the cost of services is somewhat of a moving target. There may be some costs that I've heard we perhaps didn't pay for. If you give District 21 the benefit of all those doubts, it's close to an unpaid $440,000 item. So if you then subtract 440 from the 450, you can see how tight that margin is. It leaves us about $10,000, $11,000 in the black. Honestly, I'm okay with that because we're not a for-profit, corporation, and I think we should be running tight as a public agency. Anyway, that's the way I see the numbers. That's my interpretation of it. I don't know if you have any questions, comments for me, or if you'd like to hear maybe Jason explain it a little bit better. I know I would.
No, I have no comment.
Okay, so Jason, could you just give us your, 10,000 foot view on it?
Sure. I will do, I'd like to speak to two pieces. One is kind of the, you talked about that there may be some costs that we couldn't pin that, rose to the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 mark. And what I would say to those are like capital items. And the best example I have of those is that last year we bought new breathing air packs, SCBAs for the firefighters, which is something that we have to do. District 4s were surplused in 2019, They were out of compliance, and District 21s were surplus last year when we got the replacements because they were approaching out of compliance. Well, that was a $600,000 expense, capital expense that, district in the current ILA, it doesn't talk about how District 4, or if they even do, pay into capital expenses. So those are the kind of things that when we talk about, this moving target of a cost, that that's what kind of Commissioner Lamb was talking about. The steering box on engine 12 needed to be replaced. Well, that's a $30,000 chunk of, piece that gets replaced on the engine. The year before that, it was a transmission on engine 12. So these, there's unanticipated costs that we try to budget for, but we don't always know what they are. To go back to what Commissioner Lamb was talking about on the $1.45, that I don't have, this kind of came up somewhat short notice for me. I had a few hours to prepare some stuff for Commissioner Lamb yesterday that we sat down and talked about. But the biggest thing I would draw people's attention to is whether, for those of you that have received the board packets over time and the RFA packets over time, I just would take you back to Bill Cushman's presentations and how it has been the exhaustive work he did on our finances and where finances are going for both districts and where they're going combined in the RFA. And the number he landed at was $1.45. It was $1.45 for that would cover the costs, our operating costs, our ability to replace apparatus. It would not cover large capital expenses like, say, the complete remodel or seismic upgrade of a station or the movement of a station. Now, I think we know District 4 stations 12 and 13 are in good spots. There's no need for us to look at that. But there is apparatus needs currently in District 4. And so the $1.45 allows us to do all those things with the taxes that we're asking from the public. And that's what District 21 chose to do after looking at Bill Cushman's models that he had drawn up. And like Commissioner Land said, I have a document here from the 26th of March from Bill Cushman that shows it's the document that he was referencing. I'll share my screen real quick. And it was actually in, Chris sent it out in the last board packet. And you can see right here, and so here's 2021, if you follow my cursor, 2022, if we go down to the $1.45, the property taxes will be, are estimated to be at $2.8 million, which covers that expense that Commissioner Land just talked about. This year's payment was $2.1 million from District 4 to District 21. And that gives us that cushion, allows for inflating expenses, as well as starts to work towards, it gets us together. It gets both districts on the same level, pending approval by the voters, of course, so that we can get this RFA passed next year with really a couple meetings, cleaning up some stuff, revisiting, looking at having the attorneys look at new RCWs as they affect the RFA. And it's just, and it should be a simple pass for the commissioners and hopefully for the voters as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. It just occurred to me, because you might be thinking, because the number hasn't changed, the 145, but the terms and taking away the EMS levy, of course, have. And it occurs to me, I know what's in my head, so I'll share it. Essentially, maybe this is just, outside eyes looking in, a simplified way of looking at it. I don't know. But I almost look at this as, I'm calling it the bridge levy lift, for lack of a better term. The 6-year 6% multiplier. I think was the wrong signal to our neighboring districts, our neighbors, our future partners, as well as sending the wrong signal to the public. For me personally, the way I look at this, changing it to a 1 year, I'm looking at it as, yeah, like I said, it gets us to the RFA. It creates synchronization. We'll be able to talk about the same message, and I kind of liken it to the new ILA, the new interlocal agreement we're going to be, negotiating with District 21 here, a renewed effort to get that going. So we have a continuation of services after the end of this year. So, it's just getting to the RFA. Quite honestly, this time next year is kind of the way I've refocused the way I'm approaching all this. So yeah, that's what I wanted to discuss with you, Harry.
Okay, I got two questions. Number one, what's his position on this, putting it back together again? You said you've spoken to him.
Yeah, putting together which part?
RFA.
He's 100% behind it.
Good.
He feels that with the new governing leadership of the District 4 board, that essentially is going to breathe some new life into the efforts that you guys had all done, all the hard work you've done over the last year. We think we're about two RFA planning meetings away from, signing it. Unfortunately, the Karen Reeds of the world, the Bill Cushmans of the world, the marketing people that are all a part of that are telling us that next year, though, is the time to start it up again. We have too much going on right now. It fell apart too late to save it for the remainder of this year. We've got commissioner elections. We've got special levies that are going to be on the ballot. We've got, the budget process to go through here towards the end of the year. And once we know what the voters tell us on the levy rate decision, of course, that's going to inform us on how we develop our budget. So there was just too much going on to try to save it for this year. So we're looking at now possibly the August ballot of 2022. But to answer, that's a long explanation. The answer to your question is every signal that I'm getting from Bruce has been a sigh of relief. He's very happy and encouraged that we're going to be talking again. One, we're going to be talking about the RFA again, and two, we're going to be negotiating a new contract for their services. I met with him as recently as yesterday.
Good.
And
My second question is South Whatcom RFA going to be on the ballot for $1.45? And is there any other district going to be on the ballot for $1.45? That would necessitate our voters looking at that pamphlet, the voting pamphlet, and see that more than one district is going for $1.45, which will help us tremendously.
The best information I have is that South Whatcom is going for $1.45, and North Whatcom will, as District 21 will as well. So there you're going to see three. You're going to see three districts that kind of all butt up, or in that Bellingham urban growth area, that are all kind of hitting the same mark as far as $1.45. I think it tells a unified story.
Very good. See, that's going to help us, because the voter is going to look at that voting pamphlet and see that. And so that'll help us pass ours, and as well as the others, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Harry, have you had a chance to review the new levy resolution that I asked Joe to prepare for us?
Well, I've got two of them here, so I guess I have one of them at least.
Yeah, well, it'd be the one that I think, yeah, it'll have one, if you're looking for numbers, the 145 is the same, but the significant piece is it's a 1 year, look for the 1 year
Yeah, then six.
and the 1% multiplier. And then he also drafted a new explanatory statement as
Would you like me
well.
to
Oh,
share-
sorry, Jason.
Would you like me to share my screen?
Sure. I guess before we start, getting close to taking action on it, I just want to make sure that, we've discussed, if there's any details in there that, Joe would need to explain or what it's going to mean and how we pull back the first one and all that other stuff.
No, I've got them all here. I have no questions.
Okay. Well, then it sounds like there's consensus between myself and Harry. Joe, before we start throwing motions around, do you want to just maybe guide us on what the best way would be to, one, pull back, rescind, retract, whatever the first one that we recently did. We need to, hit delete on that one. Two, approve this one that's before us today. And then three, what kind of public statement or public commitment would we make to essentially say that our position is to zero out the EMS levy when the county contacts us in the future and asks us how much money we want? How do we say, zero?
Let's start with the resolution issue first. You adopted a resolution number 2021-02 already, and now you're reusing that number according to the draft. And so I would say a motion from the board to adopt the new resolution number 2021-02 and rescind the earlier one adopted on a date earlier in April. I think it was still in April that you adopted that the first time.
Okay.
So a motion like that to adopt this new resolution and to rescind the old one.
All right, so let me see if I have it then. So I would move that we adopt this new resolution that's before us, 2021-2, and that it would replace the same resolution that we previously passed.
Right.
I'll second that.
So it was moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 2021-2 that's before us today, and that it would replace the previous resolution. Is there any more discussion on that?
None
All
here.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I think the second piece of this might be to discuss briefly the explanatory statement, which I call version 3.
Sorry.
And it's a good summary in a way of what you're doing in a very short couple of sentences. It says, basically, I can almost read it. It's placing a 1-year lid lift on the August ballot and pointing out that state law limits the annual growth of the tax levy to 1%. Year over year, the revenue can only go up 1%. So you don't need to adopt a limit factor because the law does that for you automatically. This has caused the tax rate to fall to 82 cents per thousand. I think that's factually correct. I'm not sure historically what your voters have ever approved as a maximum, but it doesn't really matter. You've had rate compression, that's what I call it. And it could have been as high as $1.50, but it probably wasn't in District 4. In any case, you've had compression down to 82 cents. So the difference between 82 cents and $1.45 is what Mr. Cushman would look at and say, that's the difference. That's what's at stake in the lid lift election for next year. Anyway, this would raise the rate to $1.45 for 2022. The dollar amount of that levy would be used to calculate the future 1% limitation.
Yeah.
And then it just gives an example. Typically, we put something like this in, trying to figure what is the average property worth in your district is a guess at best, but they can extrapolate from here. If approved, property worth 400,000 could anticipate an increase of approximately so many dollars monthly. You could do it annually, whatever. It just gives you an idea of how much of an increase am I voting for if I vote for this. The idea is to educate the voters about what they're doing by voting yes or no. And then I added a sentence at the end. In 2022, District Number 4 will have no EMS levy. It's only through this process that I found out that you adopted a permanent EMS levy about 8 years ago. I never knew that before. I haven't been the attorney for District 4 for very long. And so that happened way before my time and association with this district. But you adopted that, and then the county later, for the first time in history, I think, adopted a countywide EMS levy. And then you entered into an agreement with the county where the county would reimburse you for the amount of your EMS levy loss, if any. Yours was 29.5 cents. And then the county adopted one that would make it added together equal 58 cents or something like that. So they did what I call a buy down agreement and agreed to reimburse District 4 for the money lost by the fact that they were encroaching on your prior EMS levy. Now that agreement expires at the end of next year. That agreement would go away. Your EMS levy is supposedly permanent, but if you don't have it next year, and if nothing happened, if the RFA didn't form, and if you stayed as a separate district, you'd still have a permanent EMS levy. So you'd have to deal with this issue every single year of deciding whether to levy it or not. And you can levy or not every year. That's what your budget decision is, basically, is how much do we want to levy? And to answer your question, Mark, every year, every taxing district has to file with the county assessor a certification form that says what you want to levy. And in your case, you should fill out the form and certify that as to the EMS levy, you want to levy 0. Then the county won't have to reimburse you anything under that agreement next year because you're not losing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that piece. I think that it would probably be good for the board to pass a motion to approve the explanatory statement to go with this resolution you just passed and to send that to the county, directing the staff to send the explanatory to the county. I think that should be the next motion. And then we can talk about a motion regarding the EMS levy for next year.
Okay. Harry, it's your turn to make a motion.
I'll so move.
So it was moved and seconded to approve the explanatory statement that has been drafted by our attorney to go along with the resolution. Any other discussion on that?
None here.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the motion carries. The explanatory statement has been approved as well.
And the third issue, I think, is how do you go about an official action that does more than just promise verbally to the voters that you won't have an EMS levy. It makes it an official action. And I scratched out a simple motion, if you will, something along these lines could be passed. If the lid lift proposed by District 4 is approved by the voters and the $1.45 rate is established for collection in 2022, be it resolved that District 4 shall not impose any EMS levy in the year 2022.
I think that'll get the point over. That's very good.
Yeah. And I could switch to my email and read that. But I'm afraid I might lose my video. Harry, would you be so kind as to basically move again what Joe just read, kind of like the first one?
So moved.
So it was, and I'll second it. So it was moved and seconded that we approve. Oh, Joe, help me out. Can you reread it again?
Yeah, if the lid lift that is proposed in this foregoing resolution is approved by the voters and the $1.45 rate is established for collection in the year 2022, be it resolved that District 4 shall not impose any EMS levy in 2022.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that?
No, but I like that because that's going to help us get our $1.45 passed.
Yeah, exactly. And I would acknowledge that this is another big move, and it might be create a little bit, well, it's going to create some apprehension for folks that have built this into budgets and maybe prior budgets. But for me and the way my little brain is working, I'm thinking of this as, it's a bridge. We just, everything we're doing here, everything that I'm suggesting we do is to just get us to this time next year, get us to the RFA planning process, because assuming the merger is going to happen, it seems like the EMS levy, it kind of just goes away anyway. Also look at it as a commitment from our district that, we're back into being all in the RFA process. And kind of like I said in my opening remarks, the decisions that I'm going to be making for myself, and if I'm making those on behalf of others, it's with correcting some of the things that led us to take these actions to begin with. So thanks for so I got a call for the vote. Sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mark, another point about the EMS levy. Limited in history in the next 10 years, they might expand that.
Audio's going out, Joe.
Mr. Quinn, we're losing your audio there.
Yeah, sorry. Once your computer catches up,
Right.
maybe
My internet connection is unstable.
Okay.
Says.
Well, when you stabilize, if you wouldn't mind kind of starting over, because
It said my
whatever you say is going to be important.
It indicated that my connection was unstable there while I was speaking, so I'll try to reiterate just this point. It's not that big a deal, but the county could raise their EMS levy to the full 50 cents in the future. And in that case, your EMS levy would be gone anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Good point.
Just for general information, the EMS levy is up next year. And there's a committee meeting now to decide how much and when to go to the voters.
Yeah. Well, I think we concluded the business that was on the agenda for this special meeting. Harry, I thank you for allowing me to kind of get you caught up on what's been going on. We have a regular scheduled meeting on Thursday, so we can get back to some of our normal business, and if anything happens between now and then, and at the rate things have been going, there might be some more news I can give you, but I don't have anything else. So typically before we end meetings, we have a motion to adjourn. Is that maybe something we should do at this point?
I'll move to adjourn.
Seconded. It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn the special meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.